Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Care Managers Inner Circle. My name's Jonathan and welcome to day 2 of the Care Managers Inner Circle Book Week. Last night we had Neil Jerd, fantastic when it came to leadership, and tonight we've got a true superstar, master of podcasts, a multi-author. It is Mr. Liam Palmer. Liam, come in. How are you, my friend?
Jonathan, absolute pleasure to see you here. Thank you for the invite. Really good to meet you on this platform and to talk about interesting books. Yeah,
mate. So, first and foremost, where are you at the moment? It looks well seedy.
It is seedy. It's a hotel in Scarborough. Came to see good friends Angela Fletcher and Sam Barrington.
I know. Wow.
Catch up. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful people, very hospitable. Had a wonderful time seeing them. So I've just taken a couple of days off and I'm heading back tomorrow. So it's been really wonderful. Yeah.
Great, mate. I'd say, we watch your stuff, which is going on. It's on LinkedIn. You've got your stuff on Amazon, which we'll talk about in a second. But the best thing, which I love about Liam, is the fact that he's an actual real life nursing home manager. You're not just and so you're doing all of this stuff
in
your podcast as well as managing a nursing home, mate. How'd you do it?
Well, as you, Jonathan, I mean, it's a privilege to lead a service, isn't it, to have the registration. It's a unique sort of mixture of very difficult and affirming at times, isn't it? To have the responsibility to lead a team, to create those quality outcomes, not just for the regulator, but for actually the people who you're trying to provide the best quality of life for. It's always an honour. Sometimes it's difficult. We try not to complain, but we do occasionally. But I think working in social care, it's so big. It's a bit less developed than other sectors that I've worked in, but it's got such potential for good. And I think when you realize that you're dealing with people's lives, and actually if you get the service right, if you get the quality right, if you get the culture right, if you get the feeling right, what actual impact that has on someone's life, you and I, we don't have spare time and energy to do it, but for somehow you kind of get caught into it. You're kind of like, well, I've got to do it. I've got to, because actually just doing this little modest offering of writing an article or interviewing someone, it may be a little bit inconsequential, but actually if it helps a couple of people running care homes to provide a better service, that might impact 500 people. So that is, so it kind of draws you in, doesn't it?
It does, and on two fronts. I mean, the Care Managers Inner Circle started exactly like that. It started actually for selfish reasons. I thought I could really do with asking someone some questions who might actually know a little bit more about my sector and who's in that sector. And that's why, when I created the Inner Circle just on a bed, everyone knows the story, a sunbed in Forteventura with the missus next to me. And I thought, and then after the missus joined, my mum joined, and my mum's friends joined, and then all of a sudden it went absolutely bloody bonkers.
Really?
And you're doing that for all those reasons. I mean, I get too involved, whether it be right or wrong, I get too involved with my staff, in terms of, you get emotionally involved, you get involved in their problems, you get involved in the debts, you get into the relationship issues, but that's what makes it just beautiful, and I love it. So mate, how did you, when I was reading your bio and I was thinking, he's put together a book, which is admirable. I haven't, you have, to find out actually you've got three books. So how did you start, mate? And tell me about them.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think I transferred to healthcare about 8 or 9 years ago, started in private hospitals. Then I moved to care groups, the sort of in the top 4 on the sort of more private pay side, as it were. And I quickly found that that there was a slight disconnect between the regulator wanted better, the organisation wanted better, but actually the people who were providing that management service and the people that were going to, they were having so little input in terms of development and stuff like that. And I thought, this is crazy. The families, the general public want a gold star of care. You've got my mum, you've got my dad. Take great care, which means everything needs to work. The regulator's like, I don't want you to drop anything. Oh, well, great. And yet the people coming through, oh, well, give them a little MVQ, give them a few bits and bobs, but everything needs to be perfect. It's like, there's something missing here. So that got me thinking. I'd worked in distribution and logistics. I'd worked for a world-class company in terms of that it's a world-class ethos. There's a whole kind of ideology behind that about staff empowerment and all this sort of thing. Yeah. So I was kind of bought into how companies can be. So I mulled that. But then in my mid-40s, I wrote an article about this wonderful lady that had really touched me. She had dementia, and she was like an actress, and she was, oh, darling, you know, she was full of life. She was absolutely gorgeous, completely fell in love with her. She was amazing. And she'd always say, let me tell you about my husband. Best man I ever met. Never a harsh word. So here she is in dementia in her 90s, and all she's doing is saying what a magnificent man her husband. And I thought, who the hell? Who was this man? You know, what a great man that even after he's gone, his wife is still praising him. And I thought, that is class, you know. And she was just the most gorgeous lady. And a couple of these wonderful ladies I met who had dementia, and they were so nice to me. They were kind of like, oh, your mum must be so proud of you. And she said, and I mean it, I'm not just saying it. And I was like, oh my God, you know, it was the most touching thing anyone had said to me in my life. So I started to write about that because I was so massively moved by it. And I wrote this one article. My mum liked it. A few people liked it, and it encouraged me. So I wrote a couple of articles, quite good feedback, published them on LinkedIn. My mum had an accident and left this world, which is a bit sad. But because she was proud of me, I kept writing. I wrote in her memory. So the first book was dedicated to my mum because she believed in me, and she thought that the writing had, you know, it was kind of emotive. It was empathic. It touched somewhere. So it was in honor of my mum that I kept writing. So that's where it came from.
And what was that book, Liam?
Yeah, that was called Management Development for Care and Nursing Home Managers. 16 articles that I wrote over a couple of years. I published them on LinkedIn one by one. And each time I would press, you know, send or publish or whatever it was, I would have sort of bated breath because I was waiting for the critics. Because, you know, like, who the hell am I? Who am I to put forth any opinion, any narrative on this giant called social care, right? But after a while, I noticed that I didn't get any critical comments, and everyone who wrote on it saying, yeah, you're right. And then after a while, the people in North America and Canada were saying the same. And then CEOs were saying the same thing. And then actually all the care groups were reading them. And I thought, well, actually, do you know what? I think maybe I'm not exactly onto something, but maybe my sense of perspective is not too far off. So that encouraged me. But every time for those first 30 articles, I just thought, I'm going to be found out. You know, someone's going to say, Liam, you're an idiot. You are. You know, it didn't happen. Obviously, other people have told me I'm an idiot, and they're probably right. But it didn't happen on LinkedIn, so that was nice.
No, I mean, they are brilliant. And so then, I know, so you did that first book, In Memory of Mum. That's lovely, that is lovely.
Yeah.
And then, so then you did a subsequent several other books, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, the second one, because the nature of, you know, knowledge is as you write it down, you become more clear of your own thoughts because you have to codify it, you have to make it clear. And then in doing that, your thinking moves on. So the second lot were increasingly multi-layered about, you know, how do you get rid of agency? And I wrote a couple of articles on that. I wrote articles about how my boss was giving me mental health issues, which this was a couple of years ago, which was, you know, a bit kind of like, what are you talking about? But it's, you know, it's in the mainstream now. And I talked, you know, so some of it was strategies. I talked about how to sell care in terms of, you know, market care well. So some sort of strategy type stuff, which I enjoyed. But I found that the audience for that was relatively limited because it was for people running care groups And in some cases, they were kind of like, well, wait a minute, I've been doing this 25 years. You've been here for 5 minutes. Who are you? That I should listen to anything you say, which I totally kind of agree with. Who am I? I get it. I take it. So actually, there was some good content there, but I think the audience was limited. So I met this gentleman called Matt, who runs a niche jobs board, nurses.co.uk, quite an interesting information board about social care. And he was talking to me about publishing some articles and promoting them. And I've written loads. I was rubbish at marketing. Still kind of am. And I said, if you could sort of publish a few on your site, brilliant, get it all done. And he was saying, he's really amazing, Matt. He was like, you're right then, but what I was thinking of was, how about you write me this? I'm like, Matt, are you kidding me? I've written 30 articles over 4 years. I've blown my brains out trying to get this content done. He's basically saying, I don't want any of your content, but he wants me to write something new. And I'm like, oh God, this is just absolutely too much. But he's so rational, and he's got his finger on the pulse. So what he wanted to know was, what's the difference between a shift coordinator and a care coordinator, and a nominated individual to an ops director? And he wanted to know all of that. What's the salary range for care home manager jobs, and why does it matter? And what's the difference between a nursing home and a residential home? What's the difference between he wanted to know all these facts. And I thought, well, that's really annoying, actually. But I thought, you know what? He's kind of onto something, because I had one critical review of my book. Well, a few more than that, but mainly positive there. But there was one person who said, I read it and I didn't get anything. But they were strategic.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it, mate? He was obviously having a bad day.
I wrote about 3 pages of defense, like, oh God, don't say that to me. But
you are so refreshing, mate. I love it. I love how humble you are.
It's not fair. Don't be mean, But actually, when I reflected on it, I thought what she was really saying, I believe, was that with my kind of very practical focus on social care, I want to know how to do things. I was expecting that in your book, and instead I got these strategies and values and whatever. It's like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Okay. Yeah.
So actually, I thought, you know what? There's a need there for something else. So what she's talking about, she was a bit crosswise, because she was thinking it was going to be something else. So actually, so eventually I wrote all this content for Matt, which drove me a bit mad. But we've ended up with, this is the stuff you need to know to do the job. Yeah. How do you manage medication? Let's talk about reportable pressure ulcers. Which ones are reportable and why? It's got all that stuff in it. It's really practical, which is not like me at all. But that's useful. So I've bowed, instead of writing things I want to write, this is what people want to know. So this is the book.
Brilliant. I mean, I'm going to get a copy, because I haven't, whilst I'm aware of the books, I haven't actually read those, but I will be getting those, because they could really help me. I always say that nursing care, residential care, but nursing care, nursing management care. Oh my God, there is so many pitfalls. There are so many I call it landmines and personnel mines. Literally everywhere. There is so much that can go wrong. And it's not just about nutrition, hydration, turns, continence. Are they catheterized and not catheterized? It's a minefield that you possibly don't get the complexity of a nursing home in other areas.
I agree.
I'm not saying it's easy in residential, or I'm just saying that nursing it's a tough gig.
Yeah,
it is a tough gig.
Yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's true. Yeah, especially as non-clinicians. Well, I don't know. Are you a clinician?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, so. You don't want me having a prod of you, mate. And that is also, how do you manage the relationship between yourself and your clinical team? Because there is a knowledge gap. There is a knowledge,
And so how do you appropriately manage that? How do you engage in clinical conversation? One of the best things, and again, it's not about me, but one of the best things that I ever did was become a community first responder.
Oh yeah.
Because I was then able clinically to be able to engage in conversations, clinical conversations with my clinical team in terms of observations, in terms of stats, in terms of, and you understood about drugs, because of course you're having conversations with little old ears at home in their front lounge after a long lie. And so you bring that into the fore, which helped me. But I mean, that's just,
I did a similar thing actually, Jonathan. Oh, well, sorry, similar intent, a different sort of manifestation of it. But yeah, I did some courses around clinical science and anatomy. I know, what an myocardial infarction and all that sort of thing. I actually know what it is. So actually, the nurses now know I know that. So they won't take quite as many liberties as they would otherwise.
But we love nurses.
Nurse team as I do. But be a little bit, cheeky.
If I start getting phone calls, so so the 3 books you've got. So the one we've got here. So we've got Liam Palmer. So you want to be a care home manager. Is that the latest? Is that the latest one?
That's a practical one. That's the practical one. Yeah, the most practical one. That's the one I'd recommend to. I'd recommend most widely. Yeah.
To care home managers. Because I mean, we all want a join the dots, don't we? ABC. Join the dots. And we like to be shown and led. Because at times you don't know which way's up. So, to read a book like that, a reference like that is invaluable. And that's why, I've always said in terms of the care managers in the circle, we like books, we love books. Self-development, you've got the likes of yourself, has put all of this golden nuggets of information together in one place, all the best bits of your knowledge. And why wouldn't you read that and go, oh my God, I've just got it distilled. I don't have to do 40 years, 50 years of life in order to learn what these people know. So that's why and audio books, oh my God, and podcasts, boom. You could on the commute when you're doing your fizz, brilliant.
Well, and I mean, I think that was it. I remember learning the ropes in those first couple of years, working for Barchester. They were really, really helpful to me, and it was really good. It was kind of like, it's gonna take almost decades. It's almost like it's a mystic art. You can never really quantify. I thought that's just absolute nonsense. That is complete and utter nonsense. I can't believe it. So, and also the trouble with it takes 20 years is actually there's all these new builds. It's a booming sector for the next 20 years because of demographics. We need a ton of new registered managers, and we need them to be competent quickly. So that's why we need to share knowledge. That's why we need the inner circle. That's why we need a couple of these books, because we need to, give the resources so people can get good quickly, not take 10 years to get good at the job. That's not satisfactory for the residents in their care. We've got to upskill people, and that's why I love your work, Jonathan, because it's about getting past ourselves. You told me that on email some weeks ago. It's about getting past yourself and actually giving people what they need. And we're in the background, and we're there to facilitate and to help because we're there to help the sector. And what we do is is secondary. And although we're getting to know each other a little bit, but actually we have the same heart on that one, 100%. Yeah,
and for all the care managers out there who are all thinking the same, who've all either been newly appointed or they're in you've just been assigned to to turn around a new facility, a new care home. We all suffer from imposter syndrome. We all suffer imposter syndrome. We're not good enough. We're not capable. We're about to be found out. And the truth is, we're all capable. We're all able. We're all human. You're allowed to be human. And the most important thing, I think, is that you're not expected to know it all. But how you treat your people is the most important. And Neil Jerd said to me last night, and it was absolutely awesome, And he was saying, look, there's no great rocket science about leadership. We can dress it all up. It's just that you've got up here, you've got a vision. Where your home's going, what's the pathway? But there's a vision here. You can't just exist. And down here, you've got your staff, your people, your groups, and the culture and the leadership sits in between to connect vision and your resource, which is your amazing people. That's it. And so. He had some, and of course, people might have seen it last night. But he was a great guy. So the podcast, Liam, you've done some amazing stuff, mate.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, my inspiration on that was kind of I felt that with the bits and pieces I'd written, I'd kind of reflected on my experience. I tried to give those stories to people so that they can learn from the stories, right? So that was the idea. But I thought, well, actually, I got nothing else. That's all I've got, basically. You got to know your limits, right? That's all I've got. So I thought, well, actually, I think it's time now to switch it to people who are doing genuinely interesting things. So I thought, right, rather than go too broad, the podcast is going to be on care quality because that's what interests me. My background before was about service and about, like you said, about how do you engage your team to deliver outcomes. So I did that in another life. So those things interest me. So I thought, well, let's focus on care quality. Let's focus on leadership because that's the magic glue, isn't it? I mean, the first book I was fortunate to go and meet Andrea Sutcliffe, the best CQC at the time, and she was very supportive of the work because the findings of my book were the same as the findings of her 23,000 inspections, which was that leadership is the effective and well led. It's the magic behind people who run homes well. So leadership is the thing. So I thought, right, I want to interview people who've done something. That's why I'm on your tail. I'm going to somehow get you. It's people who've done something. They've got something about them. They're trying to make an impact. They're not an ego. They're actually trying to make an impact, or they're bringing some innovation. Because leaders, people follow. They've got something about them. Like you said, it's vision, isn't it? They've got something they've seen in their mind. So that was what really got me interested. So 2 years ago, I started with Jeremy Wolford, who runs Middleton Retirement Village near County Durham. I don't know if you've come across him. Remarkable guy. And then I went to meet Sam Barrington. Those were my first two interviews. Little old me,
Sam is amazing. I went to see him in Leeds.
Did you?
Yeah. And I got over the Pennines. Right, go and see Sam. And he goes, oh, do you live nearby? I said, you must be joking, mate. I've travelled 2.5 hours to come to you. He goes, oh, I've just come from. But great, and we shared. I know you've just seen Sam, haven't you?
Yeah. They're just beautiful people. And I mean, so the absolute first interview was with Jerry Wolford at the village, and he sort of showed me round, and there was like 7 different care models on offer. And he started talking, and about 5 minutes through, I thought, you know what? I just want to throw this book in the bin. This is a whole lot of rubbish, right? You need to write a book, and I'll read your book. How about that? Which was just hilarious, But it was a really good interview. Jeremy's very, very articulate. He's moved on to now it's a sort of staff ownership model there, isn't it? What was really fascinating was that actually he came from industry, he worked in a consulting company, and he used the principles of the ones that were most well run, and he simply applied that to care. And I thought, well, that's what my 2 books about, actually. It's exactly the same thing. It's ideas that work and just applying them to care. And because so few people have done it, it works really well, oddly enough. But he was amazing, really just an incredible work. I was quite in awe of what he's done there, but it's a 20-year work. So just amazing.
Yeah, and so how do you get hold of these podcasts, Liam? So because they sound amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a care quality podcast. Meet the leaders and innovators. If you Google it, you can find it. if people look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see a list of the podcasts and you see what they cover. We've had some really interesting people on there, but that way you can kind of pick and choose, what might suit you. A few weeks ago, we had Professor Martin Green. We've had the great and the good. There's hopefully there's some decent material out there for people who want to understand social care a bit more from a sort of management consultant perspective, and also some bits from CEOs. It all has an emphasis on quality and also interest in going digital, which, although it's trendy, is actually really good for quality, isn't it? Basically,
it's just amazing. I mean, the dashboard available to me now, because we went digital about 2.5 years ago, and we're continuing to go. It's just insane. And for all of you out there with paper, come on, guys, come on, you've got to bin it. You've got to bin it. Release your templates, burn them. Burning your bras, but burn your templates. Come to digital, come to the dark side.
It's really amazing, isn't it? And I think the single argument, the strongest point I can make for a home manager entertaining digital was there was a time where somebody in my care lost about 7 or 8 pounds in a week or two. I mean, it was a health condition, right? So they kind of would have lost it anyway. But the point is, we didn't have any tech in there. It was about an 80-bedder somewhere, and no one had actually noticed. So what was happening was they were giving her the food. She wasn't eating, but because of the turnover of the staff, as in different staff, people didn't really see the pattern. And then I found it out, and I was, aggrieved. Oh God, why haven't we done any more? All right, come on, Liam. She's got some underlying health conditions. But the point was that with the technology that you know about, Jonathan, we'd have an alert. We'd see it. It wouldn't just be sitting on a file somewhere. When you think about, that's someone's safety, then I think that's why technology for me, because it can tell you things. It can give you a flashing look. Whereas if it's in a it won't, will it?
I can't believe, and it was not a million miles. So 3 years ago, before we went digital, we've got we're a relatively small home. It's a 34 bed or 36 bed nursing home. Yeah. But they're clinically very, very, there's complex clinical needs there. Yeah. And nurses and staff used to go around with a little piece of paper on who was on turns, who was on peg, who was on flushes, who was on. And I was thinking, oh my God, and everything was just written, or it was the dog-eared care plans or the clipboards at the end of a bed. Oh my God, and of course, a relative would go in there because because mum's on end of life, and of course you're going to read the notes, and you go, well, you haven't eaten for 3 days, and you go, well, it just hasn't been filled in. Oh God, it's awful. They were bad days, mate. They were bad days.
Bad old days. Yeah, agreed.
So, hey, Liam, mate, it's absolutely wonderful seeing you. And I've got to say, that mirror behind you just makes you look, you've got some enormous horns on. Just makes you even more.
That's about right. That's about right.
It makes you even more impressive, my friend. Look, it's been great. It's been a great giggle. Please go and find Google Liam. There's loads of stuff out there. He's all over the place. So podcasts. Is 3 books. If you want some real practical stuff, so you want to be a care home manager, I'm certainly getting that, because I could do with some top tips as well. But mate, we're going to see you at the Care Show as well. So the Care Manager Circle, our annual conference on the 13th and 14th. We've got some amazing speakers. Liam's going to be one of our amazing guys there. He's speaking on the 14th. It'll be great to see, and he'll be on stand C52. With our great big battle knickers and everything else, and it'll be great fun. Liam, my friend, get back to your seedy hotel room. Great, ladies and gentlemen, many thanks for Liam this evening. Absolutely fabulous star, a fellow care manager with his battle knickers well and truly hoisted up around his neck. We will see you tomorrow. Again, we've got more fantastic speakers. This is day 2. We've got 6 speakers this week. We'll see you very soon. Bye.